Welcome to the Activity Call Live. Now let's hear it for our special guest host, Mike and Noelle Lewantowicz.
Hello. Welcome to the Activity Call. We're so excited to be able to be on this call today, and I want to thank Andy for inviting us to come back on here. And we don't take it lightly. Like we think about what we want to share and go over that. So this is a real honor for us, and we appreciate the opportunity for sure. And I just talked to Andy a little bit ago. He's so excited. So much growth going on within the company. Different organizations, different teams. It's like a rising tide raises all ships, right? So many more people are going out there serving, helping other people get what they want. And when we do enough helping people get what they want, then we get what we want to. So we're so excited. So thank you. Thank you for this opportunity today. So we did the call the other day. I did the call the other day, and we talked about the 5 stages of emotional change. And I wanted to kind of build on, this call is going to build on that call. That was a couple days ago. If you missed it, don't worry about it. I have some awesome news for you. I just talked to Stephen Handy and the people over there at the Alliance, the corporate headquarters, and they have something in store for you. It's called the Video Vault, that's coming to you live on the NAA University, where you can go back and you can look at all the videos without having to go to YouTube. You can go to the Video Vault, and then you can search specific videos that you want to look at and go back and view again. Or if you missed a call, you can go back there, and it's all in one spot, and you can sort it out. I saw the page view of it, and it's just a sleek style. The new NAA University is just, I know they've worked very hard on it. And you can go in there and sort for activity call. You can sort for TWCs or NatCon, different talks, different videos that you want to see. And you can sort by the host's name too. If you wanted to go back and look at Marcus or somebody else that did a call, you could sort for that and search. So it's a really cool tool. And I think that's going to go live maybe now, maybe sometime today. At some point, you should see that on the NAA University, and it's called the Video Vault. I know I will be going there a lot. So that's a great tool too for you to see where the videos are, so that you can send your agents to that needs to see a specific video without having to go searching around on YouTube or something else, right? So great tool for you. So if you missed Wednesday's call, don't worry about that. I'm sure that'll be up on the Video Vault soon so that you can look at it. It is also on YouTube, I think. So we're going to cover the 5 stages of emotional change. I'm not going to cover everything I did on Wednesday, but I'm just, for those people that did miss it, just to kind of give you an idea, I'm going to talk a little bit about those stages so you know what they are. So, and I have an awesome lineup of guests. I have my husband here today, Mike Lewantowicz, and several other guests that we're going to bring up here coming up that are doing and getting through these stages, but also continuing to create the momentum. So that's what we want to talk about, getting through the stages, but keeping the momentum going. And so the first stage is called uninformed optimism. That's when you don't know, you're just very excited. You don't really know what's going on. You don't know what the costs are that you have to go through, but you're very excited about this opportunity. And you see the benefits, you see you can make a difference and change your life, but you just don't know what the costs are yet, because there are some costs with change. And then the second stage is called informed pessimism. That's where you start making phone calls, and you got your license, and you get some no's, and you get some no-shows and chargebacks, and you have an agent that gets started, but they don't they don't do anything, or they quit, and you start feeling like, oh my gosh, is this worth it? Did I make the right choice? Is this change all worth it? So now you know the benefits, but you're wondering, are all these costs worth it? And that's called informed pessimism. That's stage 2. Stage 3 of this is called the valley of despair. Mike called it the valley of death yesterday. I'm like, don't go crazy on me now.
No. The valley of despair, if they don't climb out, they fall further into the pit of death.
The pit of death. That's where they.
That's where you don't come out.
Join the witness protection program, or get abducted by aliens or something like that. We never hear from me again. But the valley of despair is it is that quitting point where you're wondering, you're feeling all this pain of all this change that you're having to go through, and you're wondering, should I just go back to my comfort zone? That's really what that's about. And you have 2 choices. You can go back to your quit, go give up, go back to your comfort zone, to what you were doing before, or you can continue to push forward into stage 4, which is called informed optimism. And we're going to spend some time today on informed optimism, because that's where you're really creating a lot of momentum within your organization, within your personal production, is informed optimism. That's where you're seeing some wins now. You're seeing you've gotten through the valley of despair, and now you're seeing more successes. You're meeting with more clients, you're making more phone calls, you're hiring more people, you're creating overrides. All those good things are in stage 4, informed optimism. This is a stage where you do not stop. You have not arrived yet. You need to continue pushing even harder to do that. And that's what we're going to talk about today. To get up to stage 5, you need to push harder, invest more, spend more time, focus more in stage 4, so that you can get to stage 5, which is called success and fulfillment, which is what we all want to achieve. We want success and fulfillment. We want to feel, that's where you're really feeling like, I'm doing this more for other people so that they can also experience what I've experienced with this. So those are the stages real quickly. We covered them in more detail on the other call, but I want to get some guests up here. Before I do that, I do want to talk about coming back to stage 1, informed optimism, where you're very excited, but just maybe you're not committed yet, right? You're excited about this opportunity. You see the benefits, and you have an interest in doing this, but maybe you're just not fully committed yet. There's a difference between being interested in something and being committed to something. So we have to make sure that we get our minds right in the stage. So if you're already if you're in this stage, or have been in this stage before, if you have an agent in this stage, we just need to know that when you're interested in something, the circumstances are right and you feel good about it. But when you're committed to something, you accept that this is what I'm going to do, and there are no excuses for it, right? So it's not something where you would do it normally. It's like, this is what I'm going to do, no excuses. It's not a matter of if I'm going to do it. It's a matter of how do I do it? And so just make sure that you're thinking that thought process in stage 1 for sure, and stage 2. In fact, all of them. Remember to come back to your commitment to do this. There are 4 keys to successful commitment. Real quickly, I just want to go over those. We didn't talk about them the other day. The first one is to have that strong desire, that it's a clear and compelling vision for what you want. We did talk about writing that down. Write that down in stage 1 so that you can go back and look at it in stage 2 and stage 3. So when you're feeling that despair, you can go back and recall, why did I decide to do this? Why did I make this commitment? Have you ever made a commitment before where you've been like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize the amount of time or the energy or the amount of effort I had to put into it, and you felt like, I really don't want to do this anymore. Well, you have to write those things down about why you're committed to doing this. So that's the first key, have a strong desire, compelling reason. The second key to this commitment is action steps, key action steps that you can take. There are a lot of steps that you can take. There are a lot of things to know and do, but there are certain key action steps that you need to focus on. And that's where your daily activity comes into play on what is it really that I need to do. Because there's a lot of distractions out there. So, and we're very limited on time. So you need to make sure you're building in these key action steps for this commitment that you've made into your calendar, into your focus, and focus on those. For example, dialing, blocks of time to dial, to schedule your appointments, blocks of times to run to your appointments, blocks of time to hire a new agent and help that agent get started, that kind of thing. So key action steps. There are very few of them that you really need to do, but there's a lot of stuff that you can get distracted on in this business and in anything. So, and then
I want to do that because I'm just on that. I've got an agent who's coming up to speed, and she had started in on her dial day the last couple of weeks. I noticed she was highly distracted. She would dial, then go on to do something. Oh, I've got to do this because this carrier's got this request, or I've got to do this training for Medicare. Oh, I've got this other thing I have to do. It's important, right? And so I noticed that this person was maybe getting 6, 7, 8 appointments booked in that dial day. And after it kind of went on for a couple of sessions, she was doing all right. She was writing 1 or 2 apps a day, or in her, on those days that she had her appointments. But I was like, I said, look, you're doing well for what you're sitting with. I said, but your dial day, you're doing all these other things that you could be doing at different times, and you're getting unfocused. I just said, listen, if you'll put those aside, trust me, focus on your dials and get your, whatever your goal is. If it's 10 or 12 or 14, get there first. You'll have time to deal with this other stuff. And some of you can do after 5 o'clock or after 7 o'clock at night if you need to. But your most valuable, your most critical or key task is getting your, whether it's 10 or 12 or 14. And what's amazing is she did that this week and got 14 appointments booked on Monday, and then wrote 7 apps over the course of Tuesday, Wednesday, instead of writing 2 or 3 apps, doubled the production because we put the focus time, and had her appointments booked by whatever it was, 2 o'clock on Monday, still had time to take care of the other things. So again, just prioritizing and decluttering if the most key task is the appointment setting. And if it's interviewing, okay, I got to get so many interviews, whatever it is you decide that key task is, it's how do I block and tackle and keep the peripheral stuff that you think is important. And yes, it is, but how do we push the peripheral to different time sections so you can focus and win in one thing? It'll change your world.
Yeah. And a key point to that is you get to block that time out. So it doesn't have to be all day, right? I mean, sometimes people will say, I'm going to dial all day. And I'm like, no, if you block 2 hours out and then you take a little break, that 2 hours, you can focus on that 2 hours and focus on dialing in that 2 hours without having to worry about the distractions. You can get those on your break. But well, my point is you don't have to block all day for something. You block blocks of time. And that's why this person was able to schedule her appointments in, 4 or 5 or 6 hours instead of all day. Right. So that's a key point. So, okay. The third part of this is count the costs ahead of time. So you kind of know that you're going to have to spend some time, energy, emotion, and maybe some money. Yes, money. I'm not going to lie. You're going to have to spend money. You're going to have to spend time, and you're going to have to spend emotion in this. So make sure that you understand what those costs are so that later on, when you're hitting stage 2 and stage 3, where you're feeling discouraged, that you can go back and recognize, hey, I knew what the costs were, so I know that I can do this, and I planned on this. So count the costs of what you need to do. Now, maybe sometimes the costs are higher, maybe it takes longer for you, etc. But just know that there are some costs and write those down so that you can look back on that. Okay. And then the fourth one is act on your commitment, not on your feelings. Act on your commitment that you made. By the way, this commitment is something that you make to yourself. Act on that commitment, not on how you feel at the time. So there will be times when you feel like you don't want to do this. It doesn't matter what you feel like, like for me, I don't want to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and do my day, but it doesn't matter what I feel like. I made that commitment to myself. I was going to do that. Right. So you act your way into a feeling, right? By doing, and then be great in the moment. Be great in the moment. That means just do what you're supposed to do in the moment that you're supposed to do it. And that's where it builds character and that commitment. You feel good about your commitment. So I just wanted to cover a few of these things. We're going to talk more and intersperse in between, but we didn't talk about this the other day. It's very, it's a beginning stage. You need to be thinking about these things. So Mike and I are the other day, I talked about us being transparent, and Sarah and Veray were very transparent on the call on Wednesday about how they felt and how they deal with these things. So Mike and I figured we should probably be have some transparency too on how we've gotten in the valley of despair and, how we try to get out of that. So I'm going to let Mike cover some of the valley of despair.
Yeah. I say, and we've had moments of times, it's not been perfect for us.
This morning a little bit for me.
Right. You want to tell about that one?
I had gotten up early, like I get up at like 4:45 so I can get my day started and do some of my prayers and other things. So I was trying to concentrate and do my routine, and then I hear this, and I'm like, oh, is the dog scratching or what's going on? And then just kept, and then I realized this is a rhythmic. So I went into the living room, and we had a storm last night, and we had a storm a week ago, and I guess some of our shingles are off, but the ceiling was going, and other things happened. The dog pooped on the floor, which didn't excite me. So anyway, I was feeling stressed, which was a point of frustration and despair for me. And then I woke him up. So
I looked at it and said, well, probably lost some shingles, pretty high winds. It's leaking. It's dark out. I don't have a tarp or a tall enough ladder to get on the roof. I said, well, we've got money. This is fixable. I'm going back to bed.
And I just had to get my mind back. I had to get my mind back to what I was doing, right? Because like we said, there are many distractions out there. But let's talk more in depth about this.
You can have something like that.
We have more deep despair.
I know some people are like, well, I have to sit there and watch my roof leak. They would sit and camp out in their living room, so I have to stay here. I'm call the roof people and we'll get someone over there, whatever. But like some people would camp out on that as opposed to moving on with their day. I'm like, okay, that's fine, move on. But here's what I will tell you is that we've had other things that can be more dramatic from our business. Like for those that don't know, for this is something that hit me and I had to work through. So back, I think it was a day before Christmas or 2 days before Christmas, things are cooking along, things are moving smooth. We're getting excited for NatCon, planning to take a few days off, run up to Ohio. And Andy calls me and said, hey, Bo, Foresters is not behaving properly, and it's looking like they're not going to be giving points toward the trip. And I'm just thinking, oh, and I'm like, it took me a second to process. And at first I was like, well, he's probably just talking about like, maybe that's going to happen. And then as he kept talking, I was like, no, this is a done deal. And for me,
it already happened.
it was like, and as it's happening, it was like, okay. And for those who don't know, we love Foresters. We've been working with them since 2005. And for whatever reason, their leadership has chosen to do some things that we don't fully understand. And we think is short-sighted. Bottom line though, is how did it affect us? Is like, I was like, oh, because for us, we've trained Foresters as the first set of products. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, and a lot of agents have been writing Foresters. This has been our number one carrier. And it was like, how are we going to work through this? How can we retrain people?
Can I just say,
yeah,
Foresters was probably 75% of our business, really, right?
Yeah.
67,
That's
75.
a good chunk. Good
It was
chunk.
a big chunk of our business. So us to have to retrain and re-help somebody else with a different product at that point was for initially starting was frightening. But you know what? It worked out okay.
Yeah. So as we're sitting there, like for me, I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, it's like, so it was a bit of a panic, and we've got momentum in business, and it's like, okay, so there was, first it was like a little bit of despair. It's like, how are we going to react? Well, we got to start letting our leaders know. It's like, okay, what are we going to do? We've got to adjust our training page. So it was, I think it was like, at first it was like, how is it going to be possible to get through this? It was like a little bit of a woe is me, woe is us, and what are we going to do? And so the first thing is, okay, anytime we've hit a point of feeling that way, and anytime we've had any disaster, Andy's always taught us, okay, 3 things to think about when you hit that. What can I do? What can I read? Who can I call? So it was like, okay, what can I do? And so it's like, well, we can certainly change our training page. We can make sure we
changed everything. Everything was like CFG.
CFG and Mutual Omaha are going to be our top 2 carriers from here forward. And then it's like, well, who can I call? Well, we talked to Andy some more. He's like, hey, got things working with CFG. It looks like they're going to do double points. I'm like, okay, cool. And then it was like, who else? We need to call all of our leaders. It was, what can I read? I need to read something about gratitude, the fact we have other carriers. And so it was for me, it was, okay, reflect on the other carrier relationships we do have that are solid, and how do we play ball there, and how do we embrace that? And we were planning a boot camp that we just had. It's like, okay, well, we're going to invite CFG into that boot camp, and it was, okay, we're going to make sure our new agents know starting now. Here's as we change our training page. The key is we, as fast as we got through that, if we took action and started to call people, we felt way better. Because what felt like very out of control, because it was kind of imposed on, we didn't have control of the fact that it happened, but it's like, okay, what can we control? Going back into the inside the circle is U-book. What can we control? What can we do? And so, yeah, we might have had a pity party for about 5 or 10 or 15 minutes or whatever it was, and it may have felt more distressing because we're having to weave this in as we're thinking about Christmas stuff. And yeah, we had to put some emotional time into our business in and around that time, but we got it done. Right. I think that was the biggest thing.
And January was a hell of a month. I mean, our team killed it in January. So, so you're going to have those moments where, little things, big things can derail you. And Mike just talked about it, taking the action steps, thinking about who can, it's okay to feel that way, but quickly moving on to, okay, how do we resolve this? And that's just one thing. I mean, there have been a lot of things. We've had deaths in the family, etc., like big major things like that too.
Yeah.
And kids stuff.
Yeah.
Major kids stuff. So anyway, we do have a lot of guests I want to go. So did you have anything else?
As we talk about this, I think, and here's the one piece, like, so as when we all talk, for those that saw this, as we talk about hitting this valley of despair, you have the ability to do one of 2 things: stay in the valley of despair, or you can start to climb out. Or if you sit there for too long, what does happen is you fall into, it's not drawn on here, but that's what I'm like, there is the pit of death. And that's where, if you are not taking action, you're going to end up in the pit of death, and we won't hear from you again. In this realm of what we do, or any other project or something you're endeavoring upon, this is universal to whatever you're trying to do in life. But it is key that you decide, okay, when you're there, become aware. And how do I start climbing out with what can I do? Who can I talk to or call? And what can I read is going to help me get out of there. And as you start to realize, okay, hey, I am good at this. I do have the tools. You start to get into that informed optimism.
Yeah, that's where association and communication is massively huge. So, okay. Ready? We're going to guess on. So let's do this. Let's get Lane Hammond up for us. There's Lane. You want to share a little bit about how you got started in this lane, but real quickly, did you have anything specific on question wise for Lane?
I probably will, but I think Lane is like, hey, we know you've got momentum. We know you're knocking on the door your first month of agency manager since getting rolling with us back in June. But go ahead and share a little bit about your background.
Paid, what, like 50 grand so far this month within his team, so fired up. So just a little bit on your background, Lane, and then how you're kind of in this mode where you've been through some stuff and now you're coming up into the informed optimism stage and how you're keeping that momentum going.
Well, thanks, Mike and Noelle, for having me on the call today. It's exciting to see the momentum and everything that's happening here in the association. And I'm grateful about where we're headed. And I'm grateful for these two people that are leading this call today, because they're down the hall from me right now. So I lean on them a lot because of the places that they've been. And the good news is they've already encountered what I'm going through. So I'm grateful for that. My background, I've been in the financial world almost my whole working career. I started in the educational realm, just like Jane Albright did in teaching, and I saw very quickly that that wasn't going to get me where I wanted to be. So I got into the financial world and actually got into the insurance business 14 years ago. And so being self-employed is great, but it can be challenging. You can go through the valleys of despair, and sometimes you think you're going to bottom out. But when you have people like Mike and Noelle and Andy and Jane and all the leaders that we have, and we stay close to them and the association, that's key. That is a key element in us growing as agents, in talking to the people that have been through the trenches and know what's going on. So the good news is I can talk to Mike and Noelle practically every day. And if I have a challenge or there's a situation that I don't know what to do with, I talk to them. It's great that I can go in Mike's office and sit down and talk to him, and he can shoot straight with me, and boy, does he ever sometimes. But that's great because it helps me. And that's where you grow. There will be pain in growth. I'm grateful where I've been. I see things happening now that I've never seen before. We're knocking on the door of agency manager, and I'm very excited about that. I'm excited about the people that we've brought on. I'm excited about traveling to see these people and working with Mike and help training these folks. And, you know, just like Noelle talked the other day about all these steps, I mean, it's all important. All of it's important. And it will just make us better as we continue on in this venture. And I just have to say, for those of you that are don't know if this is the right thing for you, let me tell you, if you'll get around the right people and stick with it, it will be the right thing for you. And it'll be the best decision that you've ever made in your life. And I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful for Andy and Jane and Mike and Noelle and all the leaders that we have.
Hey, Lane, so quickly, just so people get a sense of like where your business is cooking. So you've got things happening locally. You've got things happening in Virginia. You got things happening in Florida within your team. So the first thing is as you're growing your business, who are you talking to find people? Who are you talking to find people, to find agents? Because that's one thing I think it's important for people to know.
Well, I'm talking to my people, for one, about who they know.
Okay.
But I'm also talking to people that I encounter every day. I mean, I have some people here in Louisville that I just happen to pose the opportunity to them, and they've gotten in and they're going forward. The way I see it is I don't take any prisoners, if that makes sense. I'm asking everybody, because the people that you think won't will. And
I got to give Lane credit, because he's brought in every week there's someone new that he's met, that he's bringing in for interviews. Mike, Noelle, do you have 5 minutes to say hi to this person? And he reminds me of Andy, because Andy will be out there living his life, talking to everybody. And so I give Lane credit for copying that and doing that, because there have been 1 or 2 people I'm like, oh, where did you find this one? Were they under a bridge? but I'm not saying that because
most of them are
not
great people.
But every once in a while I was like, but guess what? I do not want to dampen the fact that Lane is out there talking to everybody, because he's finding some winners that are popping up and emerging. So he's giving everybody a shot, and they're finding winners, and we're spending more time with those in the process. So that is one big thing.
So it's easy for us to say that, but like, I know you found some people at the car wash, right?
Right, I did.
A few people there, and then they hired some people, and then you where else have you been out where you found somebody? I just want to give people these ideas where you're living your life, right?
Yep.
Opportunities for them to think, oh, I could do that.
So people in Virginia, I'd been in contact with one of my guys for, I want to say 8 years, and he was with another organization. I found him through a friend of mine. And I'm the type of guy that I just don't burn bridges. So I stay in contact with people. I stayed in contact with this guy. And come December was the moment in time for this guy to move. But we're talking about 8 years ago. It may not be people's time when you talk to them initially, but they will find a time where they are looking for something else. And this guy was, and he's brought, I want to say 11 people with him, something like that.
Got a leg growing there. We got a guy from the car wash who turned out comes from a family that's been around insurance and is a lot sharper the more we got to know him, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And then so that came from you just living your life. And then you had an interview. Remember with Joey, so when did you interview Joey?
In July of last year.
Okay. And then he suddenly popped up and started doing something when?
It was
December.
Yep.
So I mean, he waited. So it's almost like, hey, planting seeds, and the crop is popping up. And so I think just the fact you found people in multiple spots. I've seen bringing people from clients, or sons of clients, or daughters of clients that you've brought in.
Yeah, what you just said, planting seeds, that's really what Lane's been doing here locally, but again, at other locations. And by planting those seeds, or just asking, really just opening a door for somebody, and if they decide to come in, that's great, right? If they don't, that's fine. Maybe they'll come back later like Jason did. And our job is to do that, is to just plant the seeds, which is taking the action to ask somebody a question if they're looking for something, right? And then letting God take care of when that crop grows. Like, Jason took a while, but, and Joey took a little bit of time. So not fretting about the results yet, but planting the seeds and taking the action. You do your job, God will take care of the other stuff, right?
Right.
So talk a little bit, were you guys?
No, you're good.
Talk a little bit about, you've been continuing the momentum with these people by going to where they are and serving them, those kinds of things. Tell us a little bit, let people know a little bit about what you've done and how you've helped them, out there traveling.
Well, so as Jason started bringing people on, I knew this was going to happen. I knew that Mike and I were going to start traveling to meet with these people. And then I knew, like, Joey, he started bringing on people as well. I mean, and he was bringing them on quick. So, Mike and I had a conversation. He says, like, we're going to need to go to Florida. We're going to need to go to Virginia. And I'm like, okay. And to me, that was so exciting because I get to travel with Mike. And we get to pour into these people. And so we're sitting down with them, we're pouring into them, and things happen when you do that. Is it going to happen with everybody? No. It's a point in time, but when you pour into people like we do and Mike and Noelle does with us, it does happen. You just need to stay consistent. You need to stay focused. You need to put your blinders on, keep moving forward, because things will happen. Is it going to be right for everybody right now? Maybe not. But staying in touch with them is key. And that's what I did. And, just like Joey, he wasn't ready when I called him. But a few months later, I called him again. He's like, what are you calling me for? And I'm like, I saw an opportunity and I wanted to touch base again. And here he was, and he was ready to go.
And you've been down to Virginia once. You met some of those guys in North Carolina. You've been down to Florida at least twice, I know, working with guys.
Right.
So just taking time, making sure you're selling enough so you've got money. I think that's big. You're selling enough so you've got money when it came time to travel. That was no big deal. I know some people are like, how am I going to afford it? So,
That's part of the, that's part of the key action steps we talked about on the commitment, right? Is making sure that you have your daily action plan for what you're doing and those time blocks on scheduling your appointments to have enough income coming in to do these things.
Right.
And you drove to a lot of these places, so you can keep it. This is stuff that Andy did. Like, this is just stuff that Andy did from the beginning, and we're just kind of duplicating that. Mike and I have been duplicating that, and now we have other people duplicating that. Like Lane's duplicating that now. He doesn't have to go with Mike or me or anyone else. He knows now what he needs to do to go, and help those people.
Yeah.
And help them make phone calls and dial and build that relationship and stuff like that. And I know that Lane did that with several people too. So, and then helping dial and call their friends to see if they want this opportunity, do a warm market dialing like that. So, yeah. So,
absolutely.
Anyway, thank you, Lane. Thank you so much. We're so excited to see your growth. And we know that you're going to hit agency manager in March and also in April and be qualified and get your ring and all that stuff. So we're very excited about what you have going on.
Thanks so much.
Okay.
Speaking of travel and going places, I just want people to know, if you've not taken a minute at least once a week to look at what's going on in upcoming travel, like, I'll just tell you, here's a couple of the cities I know. I'm not going to go, we're not going to pull up the website, but if you've not gone on to the Alliance Ventures and looked at the hot spots, here's a couple of things that are coming up next week. So I know that in Houston on Thursday, that Noelle and Adam Katz are going to be in Houston both that afternoon and that evening. I know Andy Albright's going to be in Biloxi, Mississippi on Thursday as well. Then I know on Saturday, the 25th, there's a bunch of stuff going on. I saw something happening in Boston. I saw that Andy is going to be in Nashville on Saturday morning on the 25th. And then there's a big boot camp in Dallas where you've got Nick Greco, got Mike Jerra, Adam Katz, Brandon Manley, and Noelle are all going to be in Dallas. There's a massive learning opportunity. And there's other leaders. I did not think, okay, I'm going to promote all these, but I want people to know, hey, these boot camps and learning spots help people get there. I had somebody tell me, hey, Mike, I know somebody in Midland, Texas. I'm like, well, there's nothing in Midland, Texas. So the closest thing is Dallas. And yes, it's a 5-hour drive, but I would get there, isn't it? I don't know. But bottom line is, it's like there's no training there. So get them to that Dallas boot camp would probably be the best investment for that person, is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But promote that to people so that they know, help them become aware. And then they're going to learn more about getting to the view. And I will say, I spent probably 45 minutes talking to Mark on Wednesday. We had him chatting with a group of leaders on Monday. And Mark is fired up about seeing each of you at the view coming up in April. I mean, he is prepping. He's excited about the speakers that are going to be training. He's in full-on preparation mode. He's like, Mike, it's worth it to get another person there that's new. He's like, I'm excited because nobody in Alliance has seen how we're going to do this. Even people that have seen what he's done for the view. he's got new characters and weaving things into our business model. So even if you've seen Mark Aceta before, you've not seen what he's got planned for coming up in Denver. So continue to help people understand that's going to be key to their growth. Last piece of this, I've got to tell you, we're fired up because we're on pace to have our best month ever. We're on a pace to do $1 million of premium this month within our team. And I've got to give credit to a lot of people for that. And part of it's been this system of using the quarterly conferences has helped us build momentum. Because a year and a half ago, we were averaging $550,000 a month in premium. And we've been steadily growing and watching our unique riders grow to where we had our biggest month of unique riders last month. And that's transitioning because we've grown our attendance at the quarterly events. And by doing that, we are on pace. We've issued 500,000 through the first 15 days of this month. Okay, so the first 15 days we've issued 500,000 with 16 days to go, and I know that that pace could pick up, could drop off. Either way, we're on pace to do $1 million. We're speaking $1 million. Our team's claiming $1 million, and I'm giving the credit to the system. What Andy's done, what Aceta's done. I got to give credit to Andy Riddle as he spent some time just chatting with our team and helping us to get verbalizing it, and we're seeing it manifest now. And so it's taken work, and then it's leaders that are out traveling, some of the ones we've got here, to go out, connect, make a difference. So there's real work going behind it. We're not just sitting there speaking it and hoping. We're speaking it and backing it up by a crazy amount of work and on fire doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the system that Andy put in place, the momentum, the team that we have, that I'm so excited for the team that we have that are putting themselves out there to go and meet with these agents and, travel. And, we talk about it a lot. I know James and Pam we're going to bring James and Pam up because I love their sign back there that they have. So let's go ahead and get them up because they've been traveling and serving too and helping these families. So it's got to go to grow. I love that. So, I just want you to come on and just a little bit about your background and how you got started real quickly. And then, how you're keeping that momentum going. I know you guys have had, if you however transparent you want to be on, how you're keeping that momentum going, even though you've been in the dip too. So go ahead.
Sure. So we started out in a completely different industry. We owned a couple of furniture stores back in the day, making a lot of money. We had no time at all, but we worked together, which we really enjoyed. And then one day we didn't have furniture stores and we didn't have any money, but we still had each other. So that was really exciting. So
that's good news. You still had each other.
That's right. So we were in the valley of despair for a little bit then. And James found the Alliance, and we really haven't looked back since then. It has had its ups and downs. Working together has always been the best thing for us, and to be able to look up to another couple like you and Mike has been amazing. There's lots of Annie and Jane. I mean, just knowing that as two people individually and as a couple, we can grow. And so we're thankful to be on the call. We're thankful for you guys. Joseph Dukes brought us in, and it's been quite a ride.
Yep. Everybody goes through it.
Yes, ups and downs.
Through it. And
That's right.
I'm so excited for you guys. You just hit qualified regional managers this past month, and your team is on fire. They're so legit, pushing. They love you guys because you're out there serving and helping them, and they know they can reach out to you and stuff like that. I'm so excited. I was just talking to Andy, and he said you guys have legit, real leaders coming up that he's excited about as well. And Brandy was just in Indianapolis with Andy.
I know she had a great time with Andy.
She did. They had
a great time.
A bonding experience. So she's fired up, I think, for about 5 years now. She's got momentum going.
Well, I know she's creating momentum and finding some people too. So let's talk a little bit about this You talked a little bit about the depth, but for this informed optimism, now you guys you're hitting regional manager, you're seeing your team grow, they're taking action. What daily activities are you guys doing to help your team and to keep that momentum of where you're going up, keep that momentum going, especially you guys are traveling to Ireland, right? So we don't want to slip back down because we're gone for, a couple weeks. So make sure that you have your plan in place for everybody that's going to Ireland.
Right.
Yeah.
A schedule.
A little bit about what you guys are doing to keep that momentum going.
Putting a schedule in place. And
Yeah, we also talked to the team about helping each other while we're gone because, even though some of us are going to Ireland, not all of us are going to Ireland. We're expecting all of us to be in New Zealand, but
that's right.
Only some of us are going to be in Ireland. So the ones who are not in Ireland, we're asking them to kind of pull together and help each other. We have other ways of keeping in touch. There's mobile apps, WhatsApp and Telegram that we can get in touch with people. They can still call us if need be. So
right, we're not going to the moon.
We're asking them to, to put together their own schedule. Like this is what I'm going to be doing on these days, so we can keep in touch with them and try to keep them on track to hit their goals. And then basically just kind of pulling together and getting the leaders are stepping up and helping, some of the new people. And so the plan is just, for the team to bond more than they've ever before and help each other.
Yeah, I love that you're communicating with them and you're talking to them and they're willing to do those things because they all know that by doing this, then they will, qualify for New Zealand, right?
Right.
Which is, a big piece of this. And so keeping those daily activities going, keeping communicating with your team throughout. I know you were writing stuff down.
That's okay. I got some. Keep on.
You had some other things. Okay. I thought you had questions. All right. So talk a little bit, because you guys have traveled a lot too. It's here in the last couple. And I think that's really what's helped you get, your team momentum going, really. Talk a little bit about where you've been, who you've been helping, what you've been doing to find these people, etc.
Yeah, well, we try to schedule 20 to 40 interviews each a week, so we're constantly talking to new people in terms of hiring and bringing qualified people on board, people that are excited for the opportunity. But then we're finding that telling them what to do is not quite the same as showing them what to do. So getting out in front of them and this is how we dial, this is how we book appointments, this is how we talk to the clients in the home. And so it's a lot easier to help them get through the 5 stages if you're there with them, kind of in the trenches. And so we feel our job, as leaders, is to make sure that they don't spend too much time in the valleys of despair and things like that. So we're trying to help them get through that. And the best way to do it is by building the relationships in person and training them in person and being there with them and helping them understand that they're not alone and they don't have to go through it by themselves, that we're here to help. It's the same thing as when you go and meet with a client. I mean, you build a relationship and then you ask questions. And it's the same thing, when you're building a team. You build that relationship and you ask questions. And so we're making sure that we're there with them and not just over the phone. We're also finding that even though you try to prevent them from making the same mistakes that you did, that's really not really possible, that they don't learn unless they make the mistake themselves. So we want to be there with them when that happens so that we can help them get through it quicker and get to the next part.
I think that part of then being able to piggyback on the different boot camps that are going on and working in areas where other people are going to as well. We were really fortunate that you and Mike were down in Florida, so we kind of scheduled to be there at the same time so we could bring our people in front of you guys as well as being in front of us. And so they were able to see like the greater team, the greater support that that we have to offer and that is available to them, because we're using where you guys are traveling, where Andy's traveling, where Andy Riddle is traveling, where all these different leaders. Belle has been an incredible inspiration to our team. We're so grateful for her. I don't think she knows the impact that she has on people, but just being able to piggyback on what other people are doing and where other people are going, and being able to go to that same place and kind of cementing the relationships with us and with other leaders like yourself. So, using that system has been, I think, a huge success for us and for our team.
That's a massive point. Going to where your leader's going, or going to where Andy's going, and making sure that you have people there too. If it's just you're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn a ton, and you're going to grow. It's just if you invite people to go in there, and then you can edify that leader, and then they can turn around and edify you back. And I know you guys ran appointments with your team, and we're doing other things with them too, not just for the training that we had while we were there. So
yeah, that's big. And some people say, like, what do y'all do? So in your case, what were some of the things you guys did in Florida with the people that were there?
I think pretty much everything. We started, we spent a couple days just kind of getting to know them better. We went to their houses,
broke bread.
We met their families. We spent time with them and their kids, and then from there we came to meet with you guys, and we sat down, and they got to see a live opportunity presentation, and we had some training with you and with Gina, and then we did a dial session and a boot camp together. So we did training, we did dialing, and then the next day we ran appointments with one agent, and then the following day we ran appointments with another agent. So they got to see firsthand that we all go through the same things. Like, some appointments were awesome, some appointments weren't so awesome, some people weren't home, some people couldn't wait to have us come into their kitchen. So they got to see, what it's like a day in the field. So it's not like that big blind monster that's ready to bite them. It's something that's, pleasant. And everybody that we spent time with understood that it was a fun experience overall. At the end of the day, it was successful. They made new friends. They got to see firsthand that, even though it's something that they're not used to doing, that it's really nothing that's anything of a big deal. And at the end of the day, it's actually enjoyable, because you're making friends, you're helping people, and you're getting paid. So they got to see that, it's an awesome experience, and something that they can look forward to, instead of feeling uncomfortable that they're doing something that they're not used to.
We're also able to talk to them about their growth and talk to their warm market and their friends, and get them excited and fired up. And being able to be there in person is a lot different than doing a Zoom call or a phone call or something like that. So I think that was really important too, to show people that we do travel and we do care and we are real.
yeah, that's a big thing you just said, because they see your commitment. Remember, we talked about the commitment. They see your commitment to what you're doing, and they see your belief in them when you go. You're sharing your belief that they can do it too. And that's a big piece of keeping people through, helping people through these stages, because they do need to lean on, many times, on other people's belief in them. And by you going there face to face, that's a massive commitment. That's a massive belief when you do that. And one other note on that, you don't have to be perfect when you go and meet. If you're running appointments or you're doing dials, it's okay if you don't schedule all the appointments. It's okay if you go, on the appointments and it's all no-shows. The key is, remember, the belief and the commitment that you're helping them with. That's the key. And they need to know that those things happen. Why?
Yeah, it happens.
Those things are going to happen to them too, right?
Yeah, and it's okay, and it's normal, and you just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest lesson that we can teach anyone, is that on your worst day, it's okay. It's okay. Just move forward. Put it, get your action plan together, and, talk to someone, read something, move forward, do something, and, get yourself out of that bad day. And because the next day could be fantastic. You just don't know. But if you quit, we know it's going to just be miserable the rest of your life.
Be in the valley of death. Thank you,
Right.
Jay. Thank you, James. Off the pit of death. Thank you, Sam. We want to bring up Jerra. Thank you so much for being on the call. And Jerra, we want to get you up here. So on the same vein, a little bit about your background and then what you had to overcome, and and then moving into the momentum that you're creating with your team.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you guys so much for having me on the call. I'm very grateful and I don't take it lightly. So thank you guys for asking me to be on and kind of share my story. So a little bit about me. I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And before the Alliance, I had a marketing background. So I worked in the corporate world, kind of had my own business for a while. So I've kind of been, a little bit of everywhere. And one thing that I'm grateful for with the Alliance, it just in, being an entrepreneur before is, you're on your own when you're an entrepreneur. Like a lot of times you don't have the mentorship that we have in this business. You don't always have a system. And so to be able to have the mentorship, a system to follow, and really all the resources that we have is huge, because when you're an entrepreneur on your own, a lot of times you're trying to figure it out on your own and you fall into that pit of despair and you don't have anyone else to talk to. So the fact that we have the mentorship in this business is really a huge blessing. And, speaking of like when I first encountered the Alliance, I was in that valley of despair because my previous business, I was doing like stuff on Amazon, selling products on Amazon, and my business had pretty much tanked. And so I was in that valley of despair. And I was like, when I first saw this opportunity, it gave me hope. I had that informed optimism. My dad was actually the one who shared the opportunity with me. So you just never know what people are going through. And so I would encourage, all of us to think about, who can I share this opportunity with? Like who could this possibly be a blessing to? Because on the outside, everything was great. Like a lot of people didn't know that I was in that valley of despair. So you never know what people are going through. And this opportunity definitely changed my life, and it's changed a lot of our lives, I know. So that's kind of where I was at.
And so your team is growing. You have been creating momentum. I mean, Jacob Ray's team is a massive part of your organization, and you have other organizations outside of that. And so you went up and traveled and served as well here recently. Why don't you share a little bit about how you're keeping that momentum going and building your business that way?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of it is just communication, the people that are growing and asking questions, so I'm from the Four Corners area up kind of Farmington, Aztec area. And we've got some agents up there that have been asking like, hey, when can you come up here and help us? And they kept asking. So, I went up there and we did like a dial session, did a boot camp, just kind of, training on different things. We did some calls to do some recruiting, things like that. And so it was just really cool. Like I always use the example of like riding a bike, right? Like you can read a book and, send people a video about how to ride a bike and all of these things, and you can overanalyze it. But until you actually go and show them, okay, here's how you do it. And then you get them on the bike, that's really the best way to do it. And you're going to fall, you're going to scrape your knee up, but we got you. We're your training wheels. We got, you're going to have a helmet, with the system on, right? You're going to have your knee pads and all of that stuff. So it's just really cool. And it's rewarding to be able to show people how to do it. Like James and Pam were saying, like, you can tell them all day long, but until you show them how to do it, that's really the best way to help people grow.
And they had so much gratitude. I was getting texts from them and seeing posts about how grateful they were that you were there. So that feeling, I'm sure you have a feeling like, man,
Oh yeah, it's rewarding, to be able to share your story, because none of us are perfect. A lot of times as leaders, they see us as like, oh, they just have it all together. But when you can be vulnerable and share your story, and they know that like, oh wow, they've gone through stuff too, just like me. If they can do it, I can do it. And it instills that belief.
Yeah. And one key point, and then I'm going to have Mike finish up. Thank you, Jerra. But one key point that you said was, they asked me. So, and I came. So if you don't have a team yet, or if you're wondering, how do I get my leader to go, why don't you ask? Like, do those daily activities and then just ask, hey, what do I need to do to get here? And we will listen when people are doing and asking those kinds of things. So I think that's great. That's wonderful. That's why we wanted to have you on this call. So did you have any?
Yeah, I did a couple very, very fast things on the wrap up. We're growing because we've got leaders that have committed to finding wit, going out and surveying, driving depth, setting an example, sharing the example, being the example. And so like we've had on last week, we know that Jake Joseph was on the call. We know Friday, Sarah Seifert, who's headed to Dallas, she's got new wit and driving depth and going to be in Dallas serving her team. Ray's been out serving and is traveling again. Joseph Dukes has been out to Denver working with some of his agents lately. Jerry Gonzales has been in Texas the last couple of days working with some folks. Jen Miller's been in the Florida area. Tad Peterson's been driving all over. And there's probably others I'm overlooking. I've also seen leaders I know are on the grow. You heard Belle Krause's name mentioned. And I'm seeing Brian Rojas and Alex Abian and Andy Riddle and Terry Edwards and Adam Katz and Dan. I'm just like, probably some I've missed, but I've seen a number of leaders. I see you out there. I'm noticing we're getting other people to see you as your leaders that are out on the road. We appreciate that there's a club of people that are focused on growing. That's a big piece of what's driving things. And I'll end with this. Every time we go, it doesn't mean it's perfect. The perfection is in continuing to do it and finding other people to serve. Here recently, I spent a few trips down into a city or state working with a few people I thought was going to be really good. It all petered out to nothing. Oop, no big deal. It's like we got plenty of other places. And so it's like somebody told me a long time ago, you stop complaining about where the crop is coming up, because the crop has come up in other places. We've been planting seeds over here, but the crop came up over here, and I was tempted to whine about, but I wanted the crop over here. And somebody said, would you just shut up and stop whining? You are growing. So what your job is to do the sowing, and you let God do the growing and let him decide where the crop is going to come up, and just keep pushing and planting and fertilizing, and it'll take care of itself.
And consistently going, consistently growing. One other thing, hey, the video vault is up live. So if there are videos or things that you want to look at and shoot out to people, make sure you do that. I'm sure this call will be on there and all the other calls moving forward. So make sure you get plugged in, get your ticket for A View from the Edge, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one.
All right, take care. Bye.
Record.